the biggest challenge I experience with freelance executives and consultants is they tend to struggle with business development. And it is so important that you are the rainmaker in your business.
There's a lot of folks, good people, heart-driven people that are having massive, massive issues with creating additional business for themselves.
I like to say I like helping people identify their sweet spot, that thing they're most passionate about, the thing that provides the highest impact and addresses a really important need.
If the year hasn't gone the way you want it to go, I wanted to hit 500,000 this year, 300,000 this year. I'm nowhere near that. I'm telling you, it's not too late. You can turn it around. Welcome to another exciting episode of the podcast, The Thought Leader Revolution. I'm your host, Nikki Ballou. And boy, do we have an exciting guest lined up for you today. Today's guest is one of my favorite people on the planet. She's a friend. She's a sister from another mister. She and I have done work together. She's been a client. She's been a past repeat guest on this show. And now she and I, along with the legendary Nancy McKay, have teamed up to do an incredible event together, which we're going to tell you all about. I am speaking, of course, of none other than the one, the only, the legendary Kim Chernecki. Welcome to the show, Kim.
Thanks, Nikki. Oh my God, you always get me so energized. That's amazing. Thank you for that wonderful, absolutely world-class introduction. So great to be here with you, Nikki.
Great to have you. Great to have you here again, Kim. So, Kim, longtime listeners to the show will know who you are because you are a repeat guest. But just briefly, for the folks who don't know who you are, just give us a very quick history of how you got to be the great Kim Chernecki.
Well, it's interesting. I'm known as Canada's leading expert in helping freelance executives, consultants, and coaches land lucrative corporate contracts. I've worked with over 1,800 executives, consultants, and small business owners to land millions in contracts. And, my purpose is really to help others tap into their purpose and turn that into their own consulting business. And, I like to say I like helping people identify their sweet spot, that thing they're most passionate about, the thing that provides the highest impact and addresses a really important need. And, having that unique combination to underpin their consulting business. And one last thing, the biggest challenge I experience with freelance executives and consultants is they tend to struggle with business development, and it is so important that you are the rainmaker in your business. So who I am is I help people tap into that sweet spot and all the steps to get in the door and close those corporate contracts.
That's a very important topic that you just brought up. And I think we'll segue right from what you just said at the end into what we want to talk about today, which is there's a lot of folks, good people, heart-driven people that are having massive, massive issues with creating additional business for themselves. A lot of them have this issue where they don't want to seem pushy. They don't want to seem salesy. They don't want to come across like they got commission breath. They want to be seen as good people. Here's the challenge with that, though. When they don't go forward and properly let people know who they are, then someone without that compunction is going to go and get that client and sign them up. And oftentimes, these folks that do that, they're what I call the charlatan marketers. These are the folks that don't really care whether they deliver a good result for the other person. They just are sizzle sellers. They know how to sell the sizzle, but you bite into that sizzle, there's no steak there. You just go, the sizzle is all right, but where's the steak? So let's talk a bit about this. Why is it that you think good people are nervous about going forward and letting people that could use their help know that, hey, they're there and they can be of some service?
Wow, that's such a great question. And I love what you say. Yeah, there are so many people out there selling the sizzle without the steak, and they're really good at selling the sizzle. But when it actually comes to the results, they don't have that steak. I think what I see with my clients anyway, as to why they're afraid. So it's fear. It's really fear. So for example, a lot of clients that I work with used to be former executives, and they had this big company behind them, and they're used to, always having the big company behind them, even if they had a sales role, even if they, even some SVPs, VPs of sales. But when it comes to all of a sudden selling themselves, right? It's like, ooh, why is anyone going to buy from little old me? I find the best people have that, what's the word? That humility about them. And it's like, and they've got to really own that once they see the value that they actually deliver and embrace it, they can feel better about, it's not about them. It's more about the service that they can provide. However, I know very few that I've worked with that don't have to navigate that, because it's like they're used to this big, organization behind them. And when it comes to just selling them, they've got to develop that mindset. I think that's what it comes to. They have to develop the mindset that what they offer is valuable, and they just haven't experienced that yet. And that's why we're here, Nikki. That's what you and I help our clients to do, right?
100%. Well, I want to just delve into this a little bit more deeply, because I think it's an important topic and I want people to really understand what's going on here. So you said something which I think is really powerful. It's not about them. It's never about you. It's never about you. It's always about your client. It's always about their client's pain. It's always about the trouble that your client's going through, both organizationally and personally, in terms of the individual that you're dealing with, the one that gets to say yes or no to you. That individual is someone's mother, someone's father, someone's brother, someone's sister, someone's friend. They've got their own hopes and dreams. They've had dreams be crushed. Their organization is facing something serious, which is why they're in the market to talk to someone like you if you're a consultant. And the problem is that far too many consultants, the fear is when they make it all about them. Like if I'm a consultant, right? Or there's a man who's a consultant out there, and let's say he's 54 years old. He used to be an SVP of sales at XYZ company. And then he comes out there and he's going and he's meeting with his first client. He's thinking to himself, okay, my client, this fellow, what if he thinks, I'm pushy? What if he doesn't think that I'm able to deliver the goods? What if? And all of a sudden, all the attention goes away from the client and goes to the consultant, and he's messing it up. And the client figures there's something off here. He seems like a good guy. He seems like he knows what he's doing, but there's something I don't understand. And that's the truth, isn't it, right? That's what people do. They start thinking about all the things that relate to their own situation, their own fears, and they take all their attention off the client. And that's when they take themselves out of the game.
150%. In fact, it's amazing how many people, for example, have presentation anxiety. What if I don't say the right things? What if I don't know the answers? What if I don't? And you're absolutely right. I can't even tell you, if you get nothing else out of listening to this podcast, it's this. It's not about you. It's about the client. It's about the client. It's about the client, right? It's about asking deep, great questions about the client. It's like finding out what's most important to them. And by the way, if your service offering can line up, it might not, but that's okay. You go into it saying, I love an opportunity to, explore this with you. I want to learn about those needs and see if there is a fit. So tell me about what is your number one issue? Tell me about it, and so it's all about the client, right? And I'll tell you right now, it just takes the anxiety away, because it's almost like they don't care what you do. Well, of course they care what you do, but they care about getting their problem solved. That's what they care about. Is it okay if I use an example?
Examples are great. Facts tell, stories sell. So let's do it.
So Nikki, you're at the beginning, you were talking about the Advanced Wealthy Consultant Summit that we're going to be, putting on with Nancy McKay. Well, I was collaborating with Nancy, and she had said, Kim, our number one strategic goal is we need to grow, and we need to grow in Ontario. And I'm looking for someone who can be that and really spearhead that director of business development and growth. And I wasn't thinking about me at the time, because I've got my own business, right? And so I said, well, you know what, Nancy, just send me over that one pager, or two pager and the role description, and I'll tap into my network and see. And so I looked at it and I went, oh my God, I tick all the boxes. I'd be your perfect candidate. And so it happened. So I ended up getting this great, fabulous contract with the legendary Nancy McKay because I tapped into and am fulfilling the number one business goal. So it was all about the goal, I just so happened to be there, right? But it's just, if you can tap into that goal, make it all about the client, that's what's going to get you the business. That's what's going to get you the business. I'm repeating myself because I really want people to hear that, because sometimes they hear it, but they still don't get it. So
yeah,
you're right on.
There's a little story I'll tell you. There was this young preacher who'd come into a new congregation, and he really wanted to make a good impression. And so he came in, and every Sunday he gave this sermon, and he was giving this sermon about the importance of taking a step toward the Lord. You've got to be the one to take that first step. He gave that the first week he was there, gave it the second week he was there, gave it the third week, and the fourth week, the fifth week, and the sixth week. And some people in the congregation started to notice. I'm going, preacher, you're giving the same sermon again and again. Why are you doing this? And he walked up to him and said, oh, you noticed, huh? He said, because it takes more than one telling of this particular lesson to get it to sink in and to get the entire congregation to get it. And I bet you I'm going to need to tell it at least 20 more times before everybody gets it. You know what? That's the truth. The problem is not that people aren't smart. It's just sometimes they're not ready to hear a particular message. And
True.
This is the thing that a lot of people have difficulty with, right? I've got clients who go in to speak to other to prospects, and these folks are in there and they're just shaking like a leaf, and when I teach them to stop thinking about you, start thinking about the other person, focus on them, understand their problem. Once they've done that, after like a minute or two, all their anxiety disappears. All that presentation anxiety or performance anxiety disappears, right? And once that disappears, then an honest dialogue happens. And at that point, an opportunity will present itself. If you're the right person to help these folks, it'll be obvious. And if you're not the right person to help these folks, that'll be obvious. And if that is obvious, you should be honest one way or another. You know what? I'm not the right guy to help you, Joe. I'm Joe Smith. You need Jill McIntyre. Jill McIntyre, she's the one who's got what you need. Joe Smith, he doesn't have what you need. And that's beautiful because you're in a position at that point to really be of service to the person. And a lot of consultants, here's another thing I think that they have as an issue is they do what they do alone. Like you said it, right? They were part of this big organization that had their backs. Now they're not.
Now they're not.
They're by themselves. So, and they think they have to be by themselves, but that's not true, is it?
Nope.
Talk a bit about that.
Yep. So you can have a solo practice if you like, if that's what you want. And then we call that having a practice, right? You can have that solo practice and that's okay. And you're going to be trading your time for money, right? And you're going to have to work really hard and so forth. What you can do is surround yourself with and there's a number of different business models you can do in growing a consulting business. I've got this whole approach that I use, the 4 levels of expert-centered businesses. If you want to, have a practice or if you really want to have a business and scale. But what you can do is you can bring on or surround yourself rather with associates who can deliver certain aspects of what you do on your behalf. You can have an EA. You can have different people that you can source parts of your business out to without having to hire employees. Now, when you get to a certain point, you might choose to have employees that'll, just be with you full on. But you can surround yourself with other associates, people who could be referral partners, and you can do some things for them. They can do some things for you. There's so much flexibility in today's consulting landscape, everywhere from having your own practice where you might, bill out certain parts or delegate certain parts of your business, all the way to having a full-on consulting business where you have, full-on business partners that deliver. Now, if you do that, though, one thing I say, if you want to build $1 million plus consulting business where you do bring on people, you want to make sure those people that you bring on are going to be driving business development. Otherwise, you don't need them. That's the big thing. It's all about you're the rainmaker up until that point. But if you're bringing on other people full time that are kind of your ilk, they got to be bringing in some business too. That's one thing I'll say about that.
Now, here's the other thing, right? We're living in uncertain times. Let's face it, right? The last 2 years, there was a pandemic. There were lockdowns, and the lockdowns were applied unevenly depending on which jurisdiction you were in. And right now, for the first time since the late 70s, we got full-on killer inflation, right? Like we've got inflation that's going up. Gas prices have tripled, quadrupled. They're saying inflation in Canada is 9%. I think it's more like 25% personally. You're trying to go buy food. The price of food has skyrocketed. The supply chain has been messed with. There's a lot of things that are not available. There's a lot of uncertainty out there. And if you're a consultant right now, it's more important than ever for you to knuckle down, get your business going so you bulletproof yourself from whatever the world happens to throw at you. And a lot of consultants that are listening to this, maybe the last 2 years their business shrank. Maybe they have no additional business, right? I mean, they used to be able to do a lot of stuff in person. Now they can't do that stuff in person. For a while, they couldn't do that stuff in person.
Yep.
And the inflation has hit some corporations. There's some corporations that are putting things off, and yet opportunities still abound, right? There is still an opportunity for you to grow your practice. You can add 100,000, 200,000, $250,000 to your practice between now and the end of the year. It's possible.
It is.
Right? And you've got to take the steps to do that. So, Kim, what have your clients been telling you about what they're nervous about in terms of the state of the world? And how do you think coming to our event on August 24th is going to help them overcome that?
Absolutely. Well, I echo everything that you just said, Nikki. I mean, there is a lot of risk out there. There is a lot of risk. And that's in big corporate organizations as well, there is a lot of risk right now because of the different factors, the uncertainty, inflation, and all of that, right? Not knowing where this pandemic, and the pandemic's not over officially, right? Like we're in the 7th wave, like who knows what's going to happen. I don't think we're gonna have lockdowns if we had before, but the bottom line, so I think what people are afraid of that uncertainty, bottom line is not to be afraid, to take it on head on, and just know that corporate clients need your help. They need to know what's going on out there. So you need to be informed, you need to be bold, and you need to be relevant. You need to be relevant to what corporate leaders need now. And just making sure that you've got your finger on the pulse in whatever area you're working on, and being able to engage with your clients around that, right? And that's what we're going to be talking about at the Advanced Wealthy Consultant Summit, as well as how can you build your business? Like if you're currently at 150,000 and you want to move to 250 to 5 to 750 to $1 million, we're going to show you how you can do that. Well, 3 different perspectives around that. I have a certain perspective. You have a certain perspective about building your thought leadership. Nancy has a certain perspective around predictable revenue. We're going to show you 3 different perspectives around how you can grow and scale your business in the midst of this uncertain economy, this uncertain. And I'm going to take away the word uncertain. I'm going to say this complex and ever changing and ever evolving corporate and business landscape. I think that's a more empowering term, because there's lots of opportunities. And as they say, in every crisis, the silver lining is an opportunity, and you don't want to shy away from it. You want to lean in, you want to lean into it. And that's what we're going to be talking about at the Advanced Wealthy Consultant. Are you going to step up and, and 3 different perspectives on how you can do that?
Yeah, so we're going to put all the details for the Advanced Wealthy Consultant in the show notes. So you, as a listener, you can come, you can sign up for it. So there's an early bird price. Take advantage of the early bird price. It's really, honestly, this program's worth $10,000, and the early bird price is just $500.
I know.
Take advantage of it. I mean, it's crazy. Like I'm thinking $500. Oh my God, I don't charge that little for anything. But okay, so we're doing it because you know what? Nancy wants this to be accessible to lots of people. So this program is going to be available. All the information is going to be in the show notes. Take advantage of this. If you like what Kim's saying, we'll put Kim's information in the show notes so you can reach out to her, you can connect with her. This is going to be an epic event. I'm telling you right now, if the year hasn't gone the way you want it to go, if you're still feeling a little, oh my God, I don't know, I wanted to hit 500,000 this year, 300,000 this year. I'm nowhere near that. I'm telling you, it's not too late. You can turn it around, but don't do it alone. Hashtag don't do the rest of 2022 alone. And also learn what are the things that people are doing that are working right now. That's important. So we're going to make sure to do that. So Kim, any last words of genius to impel people forward to take action?
I'll tell you right now, it is all about mindset. It really is all about mindset. It's about coming from the heart. It's about really, being able to serve your clients and just have the confidence and the knowing that you have your consulting business for a reason. You add lots of value, but if you just want help with that mindset as well as the strategy and tactics to really, scale that business, take it on, come to the Advanced Wealthy Consultant Series. I mean it. It's going to be outstanding. And the synergy between the three of us, you, Nancy, and I, Nikki, is just so amazing. We're going to have so much fun and everyone's going to learn so much. So I'd say be there.
Amen. Amen. Well said. I wholeheartedly agree with everything you said. And that wraps up another exciting episode of the podcast, The Thought Leader Revolution. To find out more about the Advanced Wealthy Consultant Summit, go to the show notes. To find out more about Kim Chernecki, go to the show notes. Spread the message with anyone you know who's a consultant, who's an independent, who's out there wanting to take their business to the next level, who wants to be a part of something special and believes in the power of togetherness and community, as well as learning from people who are steak sellers, not sizzle sellers. Make sure you show up. Make sure you spread the word. Kim, thanks so much for being here. It's an honor to have you here.
Nikki. This is awesome. I love connecting with you like this. This is amazing. Thanks, Nikki.
Ditto.
Appreciate the opportunity.
My pleasure. Until next time, goodbye.
Goodbye.
This episode has been brought to you by eCircleAcademy.com, the proven system to add 6 to 7 figures a year to your thought leader practice.